Okay. Hi guys, so welcome back to my channel. My name is Faith Afolabi, and this is the Informatic Chick, where we give information on for new migrants coming into Canada, or if you're already in Canada, things you should know about migrating, life in Canada as a new migrant, and many more. So welcome. For those of you that are coming for the first time, you're welcome. For those that have subscribed, you're welcome. So today's guest will be talking about the easiest route to migrating. I know a lot of you have been reaching out to me back home from Nigeria, where we're from. What are the easiest way? Okay, I don't have this much money to pay consultants. How can I come in? Right. So Mr. Olatunbosun Fabodun, who is a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and is licensed by the ICCRC, has garnered experience over years assisting hundreds of people to realize their dreams for migration. And I'm one of the people that I know I can testify about him. He takes his time to explain things. So he has passion for Canadian migration stems from his own personal experience coming to Canada as a graduate student in Nigeria in 2013. That's about 10 years, Ola, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, he obtained an immigration practitioner diploma in law, policies and procedure from the Canadian Society of Immigration Consultants, that's CSIC. Olatunbosun is very passionate about people and the community and has spent countless hours volunteering on different courses. Yes, I can testify to that. You call on him, he brings his time and tells you ways in which you can migrate to Canada. Okay, so we're going to be talking about easiest ways to migrate. And for those of you that are already here as a visitor, how can you turn your visiting permit to a work permit? So there are two things. So listen up, stay tuned, get your popcorn and enjoy the conversation. So, right, Ola, so can you tell us?
All right. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. So I'll start by saying that, Canada is a wonderful country. So as a result of that, many people want to come in here, right? They want to settle, they want to come acquire world-class education, and all of that. And also, more importantly, that we forget is Canada provides shelter for people fleeing prosecution, So many reasons, countless reasons that people might want to come to Canada. So talking about easiest, yeah, I like that topic. But more importantly, again, we need to talk about legitimate, not just being easy, legitimate reasons and ways to come to Canada. So number one, Canadian immigration is a mostly do-it-yourself system. I need to make that one clear for people. So people can go on the Canadian immigration website, and look up information. They can actually do most of the processing themselves. Of course, some might be a little more technical, and they might need to hire a paid representative or unpaid, as the case may be. So I will start by the one I think, in my opinion, is the most popular right now, which is through the Federal Skilled Worker Program. Okay, so the Federal Skilled Worker Program is an arm of the Express Entry system, whereby individuals are given points. It's a point-based system. They give you points on 6 classification factors. So, and generally, people that have education in Nigeria or abroad, outside Canada, at least a degree, and if they are not more than 40 years old, they might be able to qualify for that program on the broader scale. Now, individual matters, right? So for some people, maybe they have like just bachelor's and they have a lot of work experience. And if they do so well in language tests, English or French, that one too adds to the total point. And more importantly is having family members in Canada. Okay, so that one is just a little definition or explanation of the Federal Skilled Worker Program. There is another one, and that one is where I and my team are trying to focus on. They call the program the Federal Skilled Trade Program. The Federal Skilled Trade. So that one is, yes, so that one is majorly for people in Nigeria that are artisans, like plumbers, electricians, mechanics, those category of people in Nigeria. They are highly needed in this country. you know, and I know because maybe limited education for that category, the minimum required education is like an high school certificate. That is a secondary school certificate. So
Okay.
most people are not focusing on that because, and the main reason is just like the candidate, the potential candidate for that program, they cannot most time produce like documented evidence,
Hmm.
you know, of either their work experience,
Okay.
where they acquired their,
Their
you know, their
skills.
skills from, you know, and also maybe the proof of funds too might be a challenge as well. So we're trying to work with, like I said, I and my team, we're trying to work on making sure that people, you know, foreign nationals outside Canada, in Nigeria and elsewhere, that might want to realize their immigration dreams of coming to Canada can actually benefit from that program. Because I mean, the one most people know of is the federal skill worker program, because we are highly educated people in Nigeria, right? So most people are usually they qualify for that. So now another area is people wanting to acquire Canadian world-class education.
Mhm.
Okay. So people in that category, they might not, I mean, they might just be high schoolers, right? People that just finished from high school and they want to come to the uni here or colleges here. So that area, it's a very, it's one of the areas I take more personally because it's the same route that I use in coming here, you know.
Wow.
So I try to, you know, like guide people very well. So number
Mhm.
one, people that want to come as students. Like I said when we started the conversation, that's mostly Canadian immigration system is more like a do-it-yourself system, right? People
Mm.
that have time and they are patient enough, they can actually maneuver the system themselves.
Mm.
And if not, then they can come to people like us, you know, regulated Canadian immigration consultants,
Mhm.
maybe a lawyer that is, you know, that is active in a Canadian provincial or territorial law society,
Mm.
you know, or the people in Quebec, right, or a student at law that is being supervised by a Canadian lawyer. You know, they can come to those set of people for consultation and, you know, and representation as well. Now, to start with, Canada, it's a very, very generous country. They provide hundreds of thousands of scholarships for
Mm.
international students. So
Mm.
that area is another area altogether, a big area that, you know, that one needs to explore. So now
Mm.
people that want to come, you know, you mentioned easiest, right? That's why I
Yes.
wanted to hit that point. So imagine coming to, let's say, University of Toronto, for instance, maybe a year tuition, maybe 40 or $50,000, and you're
Mm.
the school or the government or some body that paying for all
For
that for
that.
you. They're
Mm.
giving you stipend, you know, so that is something people under appreciate or they don't even know enough. So I
Mm.
tell people, first of all, explore scholarships. There are
Mm.
countless number of those, right, that international students can benefit from. So that's number one. Then number two, if because most of these scholarships are highly competitive, I
Mhm.
mean, like some people might not be able to qualify for them. So what can they do? They can pay to come study here themselves, right? Meaning if they have like sponsors, if maybe
Mhm.
they are, we in our organization, we advise people that based on our own experience, to personal experience with the people we've worked with, we advise them that look, get somebody in your immediate family that you don't have to do so much, you don't have to put in so much effort to prove how related they are to you. That way, you've skilled one big gun, like getting maybe your parents or your siblings or maybe your uncle or, you know, people in the immediate, you know, circle of your family. If you can
Mhm.
get them to be your sponsor, and
Mhm.
if they can show that truly they are not just using all their life savings to like, oh, I want to sponsor. Maybe all what they have is just $20,000. Canadian dollars, and they want to sponsor you to come to school here, and your 1 year tuition alone is maybe $20,000. So the chances is already limited for that individual, right? So we can work, in my organization, we can work with people to do the proper planning on, okay, how do you manage your finances in the right and legal way so that you can meet the threshold to be issued a visa and a study permit, right?
Yeah.
So that I talked about the scholarship, right? The other one is people can self-sponsor themselves, right? Like ensuring to get admission here, starting with is people that have like good education from Nigeria, they generally will be able to get admission here in Canada. It won't be much of a tussle, but what is the challenge mostly is the funding part. And also, people don't like the way okay, let me give you an example. Okay, somebody studied a course A. The work experience that they've garnered over the years, maybe let's say 4 or 5 years, is in a different field altogether. Then they want to come and study another course B. And when the immigration officers look at all those things, they don't align. So that's one area that make people easily, yes.
Refused.
Yeah, exactly. I think now I'm going into maybe why people might not be successful, right? In getting study permit. So that area, when all what you've studied, what you have done in your work as work and what you plan to do here, they don't align. That one might be easy for people to be. One area that I don't like to miss it. I don't like to miss it when I talk to people is the area of misrepresentation. Misrepresentation is saying or claiming to be or have what you do not have. So many people, sometimes it's just honest error, honest mistake. And sometimes people just like, oh, it doesn't matter. No, it matters. Most things here, when the application is submitted to the immigration, the information is stored in such a way that it can be retrieved and fact-checked every other time you apply or you come to the immigration officer. So if something does not match, then and you are asked why and you cannot provide answer that is convincing enough or legal enough, then that person might have committed misrepresentation. Let me give you an example. Like somebody applying maybe 2 years ago, and they claim that they worked between let's say 2021 and 2022. That period they worked at company A as maybe, let's say, an engineer, for instance. Now it's 2023, they want to apply again. Maybe they were not successful the previous time. And that same period, they are claiming that, oh, I wasn't an engineer there, maybe I was an accountant. And
excuse me. Yeah.
And it's not that company A that I worked, it's another company in B, So the officer will clearly see the
errors.
Exactly. And that application can be flagged for misrepresentation. Oftentimes, that leads to a ban, and when one has that in his profile, even when they come back, I mean, like when they come back, they are assumed to be looked, fresh, but sometimes that tag is always going after that person, right? So I tell people, be very, very careful, be consistent, truly consistent, not just consistent in lies, So and also another area is the area of saying, I mean, I understand the need for people in some countries to want to come to Canada for better life, but I tell people that you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be like sometimes or most time a do or die affair. Ensure that you plan yourself. You plan, what you want to do very, very, very well. Don't start lying because you want to, except maybe, I mean, I won't encourage people to
Okay.
start lying and say, oh,
Okay.
this do or die, I have to get in here, because it will catch up with them later.
On you later.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I have question from the pathway. You talked about when you talked about FSTP. Now, how much is
Yes.
required for that? The POF, those people that they are expected not to have so much money because they're just high school holders for those type of jobs. So, like, how much money is required for that? And are they also required to write IELTS, go on the profile like express entry?
Yeah, thank you. So for those people, like I said, high school, it does not necessarily mean they have to, sometimes they need to show proof that they have some trade qualifications. Because
Mm-hmm.
some profession, in fact, in Canada, as you may be aware, most professions are regulated, meaning that
Yes,
you need to have
license.
a sort of license, to practice. So, one needs to show that, right? And also the proof of funds generally it cuts across, like it's generally the same for most of these express entry programs. But what was the other question you asked about?
Do they require IELTS to write test of
Correct.
English?
Yeah, they do. But
The
the
scores are
point that they need to achieve, it's quite lower than the federal skill
okay.
worker program. Yeah.
Okay.
So the funds are generally like the same
Wow.
for
Okay.
the federal skill worker and all of that.
Okay. Okay. Now I know one time we were talking, having conversation, and you mentioned there were like 61 pathways to coming into Canada. So out of that 61, you mentioned like this FSP and STP, FSTP. Are there
Yes.
other ones that are easy for people to come in?
Okay. Yeah. So for instance, there is unification, right? Family
Mm.
sponsorship. Or for instance, a student in Canada and being married and the family is outside Canada. So it's much easier for that student when they have like the financial proof. It's easier to be able to bring their spouses and their family members, like their children, I mean,
Mm.
to Canada, right? So
Yes.
that's another area. And that also goes back to the planning thing I mentioned when we started. Like, it's not just like, okay, except you have like the funds and you're able to establish it to the officer that, look, I have this much money, I have maybe like 5 children, or I don't know, and I have my wife and my husband. I want all of us to come at the same time. Yes, it's very much possible if the funds are there,
Mm-hmm.
clearly, if they're there, it's not as if it's the barest minimum, like I mentioned. If you have the funds, then you can convince the officer that, yes. So that's one, family unification, and it's a really big thing that the government is trying to make sure that the processes are smoother than it has ever been, you know.
You mean if I like now
Uh,
I'm here, I have siblings back home, I can bring them all in as a
okay,
PR
that one,
or a citizen?
perfect, perfect. Yeah, I like that. So that one, um, mostly again in the federal skill worker program and the federal skill trade program. If you have family member in Canada, let's say the applicant is a foreign national outside Canada, they can use the influence of having a family member here to get more points in that express entry system. That's number one.
Yes, it
Now,
can
there is
depending
one,
province.
yes, yes. So there is now, no, it doesn't depend the province. If
Oh, okay.
you have a family for the
Family member.
federal program, yeah,
Okay.
if you have a brother, a sister, and of course, maybe parents that are permanent residents, right? If you have them, you can use them to get more points. Why I say parents is that if your parents is, let's say Canadian citizen, one might also automatically benefit to be a Canadian citizen too, right? So, but that's another discussion. But generally, for the federal program, when you have like siblings, especially and parents, you can get more points, with them being in Canada as permanent resident or citizens, as the case may be. Now, there is one area that it's also very interesting. It's a very good means that, hundreds of people are using these days to migrate to Canada is the provincial nomination program.
PNP.
So that program. So I need to note at this point that immigration jurisdiction in Canada is shared by the federal and provincial or territorial government. So territorial government, provincial government, they have the power as well to issue what they call nomination certificates,
Mm-hmm.
okay, for people to be able to come to Canada. So notably Alberta, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
if you have like any family member in Alberta, your nomination process can actually be much faster than not having a family member.
Member,
Though,
okay.
yes, so sometimes Alberta also prioritizes the job where you have more work experience in. You don't need to necessarily have a family member. Alberta, if it's the job that Alberta prioritizes, they can actually, if you're in the Federal Express Entry pool, Alberta can go in there and send a notice of invitation to you,
Sounds to
right?
you. Mhm.
Other provinces do that as well, so having family members can not be overemphasized. It gives you much better leverage, through the federal immigration programs, and through the provincial nomination program. So meanwhile, I know we've not talked much about the provincial nomination program. So the provinces, like I said, they also have immigration jurisdiction. Of course, the final authority lies with the federal government of Canada to admit
Mhm.
people, but the provinces too can do something up to about half of the process. They can give you a nomination certificate to come if other different factors. For instance, if let's say you study in a particular province, it used to be so easy before,
Yes,
the
but now they require lots of things now.
yeah, the conditions then was you should just have a degree or a diploma in that province, from a recognized post-secondary institution in that province, and that's it. But now you need to have a job. Your job needs to
Mm-hmm.
be related to what you studied, and
Study,
all of
yes.
so many conditions, right? Trying to
Mm-hmm.
strengthen. I will not say it's more difficult now. I think they're just trying to strengthen the integrity of the processes, most
Mm-hmm.
of the provinces. So basically, it's still much like easy as it was, but just the integrity they're trying to strengthen.
Strengthening.
And also, more importantly, most of the provinces want people that will also stay and contribute to the economic growth of that
Money.
province,
Mm.
So they don't want to give you, they don't want to give you a certificate that, oh, we want you to stay in our province. And after all said and done,
You
you
now
move
leave.
to benefit another province, right?
How does that impact on your citizens? Does it? Because I know here one time someone had gone to the Nova Scotia government asking if they can move because they had come in through the AIPP program, but they said there was no issue for that. You can stay anywhere as long as you don't have a contract with your employer.
Okay,
So
so for that, if you permit me, can I go ahead?
yes, please.
Okay, so for that, generally, generally, by the time you are issued a permanent resident card, or you are declared a permanent resident, you can live anywhere. You can decide to live anywhere in Canada, any province, any city, like that. Now, sometimes for people that use, say, provincial nomination programs, there might be conditions, okay, that are
Mm.
attached to those programs that, oh, you need to maybe stay in this province for at least 2 years,
Okay.
you know. So if the province decides to take it up and argue it in court, I'm not
Mm,
aware, honestly
mm,
speaking, of
mm.
any
Written
legal no, what I want
documents.
to say is that, like, any like a Fed, or maybe it's the Supreme Court of Canada decision, I'm not at this point aware if there is any that says, you cannot, but what I'm saying is, if for instance you decide not to, and either the province takes it up with you, or the federal government itself says, no, you got your permanent residency through a province and you have agreed to stay there. So I'm not aware. I've had situations, I've had people talk about it. But
Yes.
my advice for people is that except everybody agrees, if for instance you have a provincial nomination from Alberta, and for some reasons you need to leave Alberta to elsewhere, I will advise you that you might notify maybe their immigration, body in
Okay.
Alberta of
Okay.
that. And I don't know, like I just like people not to put themselves in some legal battles that
Arm's
are
way,
not
yeah.
necessary. Yeah.
True, yes.
But of course, people always have legitimate reasons to want to go elsewhere. So if those legitimate reasons can be proven, maybe in the court, if the case arises or if need be, then of course they can. But if not, if it's just to fulfill the residency requirement of your permanent residency, just stay and maybe I think 2 years or thereabout, and then you move this way, right?
Yes. Okay. Time is running out. We have 9 minutes now. I want you to talk about converting your visiting visa to work permit.
Okay. Yes. So for that one, what I also, like you would have noticed from our conversation that I'm somebody that always, because I don't know, maybe I mentioned it, I start my conversation with Canada is a country of laws. Everything, if you are on the right side of the law, you're good. Now, there is a legislation or a policy, actually, of the federal government of Canada permitting certain categories of visitors to remain, right? Number one thing is when you're coming, and we mentioned misrepresentation too initially.
Yes.
When you're coming and you have told the officer that I want to come as a visitor, then we in our organization, we advise that individual to spend the allotted time to permitted of them to stay in Canada and return. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
if there, and this is actually on individual basis. I wouldn't like to generalize like, okay, oh, visitors can remain. Now, if there are reasons, for instance, somebody that is fleeing persecution, like that I mentioned that time, if they have genuine reason to want to remain in Canada, whether as a worker or a permanent resident, then there are means to do that. They can either use this means to at least get a work permit first and now be challenging their stay, trying to convert to whether a refugee or whatnot, or, but for regular visitors, if the reason is not, like I mentioned, I wouldn't like to generalize it because we don't encourage it. If there
Okay.
is specific reason that, okay, maybe I'm being offered this job and it is actually at the discretion of maybe the organization that wants to offer me the job. It's not as if I'm actively the one pursuing it or whatever. If you have come in as a visitor, remain a visitor, the time allotted for you to stay and go back. Because what you have done is you've given yourself almost a lifetime chance of returning to Canada in other maybe permanent resident category later on, right? Rather than, oh, I'm a visitor, I want to convert to work permit, and you now do all that process and you are not successful. At that point, that person might have violated the terms of their visa or stay, which might have implication later. So, but the truth of the matter is that there is a policy that allows people to stay. But we would like to address those situation on individual basis, right? We wouldn't want to do blanket because we will not encourage like people flouting the law of the land, right? Yeah, but of
Okay.
course there is a policy, yes, that allows certain categories of visitor to convert their visitor visa to yes to a worker. Yes, it exists. I think till about 2025, February 28,
Okay,
2025.
still in process.
It's
Okay, you
still
can
in,
you're
it's
allowed.
still valid. Yes.
Yeah, but it's difficult for people getting jobs, except they go through consultants like you. Why is that?
Um, I wouldn't say, like, for me, I'm not a recruiter, right? So I don't even help people. I can't help people
Okay.
to really, except maybe I see a job that every other person sees online,
Okay.
and I'm able to, like, oh, I saw this job, I can do, like, send like the link to that
To the
person,
person.
you know.
Okay.
Yeah, but um number one thing I also try to say is getting a job, in Canada, it's illegal for the individual to pay somebody to get a job. And also,
Hmm.
it's also illegal for somebody to collect money and give somebody a job. So that one needs to
Really?
be clear.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
it needs to be clear for everyone. So that's why
Okay.
I'm saying that, except maybe the employer who sees that, oh, you know what, you are just the best candidate that I can identify for this role. So I will do all I can to give you the job offer. And most of the employers, they know what the process entails. If they don't know, they always can approach, consultants and whatnot to advise them. They need to get certain documents which they will issue to the foreign national to be able to get a work permit.
Okay, like the LMIA, need to
Correct.
prove to
Yes.
the government that you
Yes.
can't find another candidate. So they give that process to consultants to do for them.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. So an employer can approach somebody like me and say, "Oh, I have this road I want to fill. Can you help me with the process?" I've not been able to get anybody in Canada. At that point, it can come to us and we can
Mhm.
assist them in the process,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So if I have people now that want to go through that process, I can refer them to your organization, pay for your consulting sessions and then follow
Exactly.
the process.
I would
Okay.
say it's in the right way is if you have or if there are organizations that need to employ foreign nationals, I would
Okay.
rather deal with the organization than the
Very good.
individual,
Okay.
because I don't really need to know any individual. If an organization approaches me that we want to fill this position and you should help us, then I don't need to, I'll go for the best person that fits that role. I won't go for
Okay.
maybe somebody that maybe I know or I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure,
So
sure.
it's better that I
Because
have
you
like
have
an
performance
organization.
issues. Mm.
Yes. So it's better I have an organization that says, please help us fill this role with a foreign national. We can't get somebody in Canada, then we come in.
Okay. All right, guys, we're coming to the end of today's program. We've been talking about legitimate ways to come into Canada. He has talked about the most easiest is FSWP, which is the Federal Skilled Worker Program. You have to write your IELTS, do your WES, open your profile, and hope that do very well when you score well in your WES, and also when you score well in your IELTS, and you have a good degree back home, then you just hope that the luck shines on you, that the federal government is looking for people that have your kind of work skill. You also have the FSTP. Yeah, you want to say something? Okay,
Yeah, I
go
want
ahead.
to say
Go
something
on.
about the Federal Skill Worker Program. So I know when we spoke maybe last year or thereabout, I said sometimes that the direction the government is taking it, that sometime in 2023 they will start job targeted invitations. So I don't know if you're aware. So that one is going to start, I believe, very soon, maybe next
Okay.
month or thereabout. So I just
Okay.
wanted to put that as
Okay.
well.
All right. So we have the FSTP program as well for people with high school. You can start gathering your work permits, meet family members, people that can help you build up your funds so that you can have good credentials. Also, let your credentials be valid because the visa officers will have a way of finding out if it's not. And then scholarship, look out for scholarship. We're going to be putting out links for how to get scholarships. There are thousands of it in Canada. You can apply for school. That's another way you can save funds. And then coming in through family members, if you have already family members here, you can claim them with points and all that. The most important thing is reading through the Canadian website, the RLCC website, which is the only website you need all the information for. Be careful out there for agents that are scammers. Don't go and waste your money. This is a do-it-yourself, like Ola said. You can do it yourself. There are lots of WhatsApp groups that people there share information, ask information, and you'll be here in no due time. It took me 16 years to get here. Yes, but it was just researching, asking questions, and dealing with the right consultants like Ola as well. So thank you guys for listening, and hope to see you again. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share with your friends, and for me, it's a bye. Thank you so much, Ola, for coming. I know it's been a while, but thank you guys. This is the first time I'm seeing him. For how many
yes.
months?
I mean, but we've
Yeah, we've been
spoken for a
talking.
lot of time. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.